All right, Jason, if you could open up a franchise dealership tomorrow, what OEM are you choosing?
I would do sports, like motorcycle, ATV, side by side type one. But anyways,
I thought he meant a sports franchise, like a soccer team.
No, like a yeah.
He's buying the Browns. All right, and welcome back, everybody, to our second consecutive episode of the Wheelhouse. That's right. Despite all of our own expectations, we're back here again and looking even better than the week prior, as we've got some new additions. Just goes to show what happens when you go out on the street with a sign that says, "Please help us." But welcoming to the show a couple of more experts that we'll get to in just a minute. I just want to go through a few things that we saw. We're going to jump right into some things already this week because we want to make good use of your time. First of all, I know that last week I was a bit ragging a little bit on a specific Cadillac model, and they definitely more than made up for it because they debuted their new Cadillac Electric or Cadillac IQ or whatever the final name for it is going to be. And I think that it's going to be an absolute runaway success. I think they're capitalizing on what made that vehicle a pop culture icon and absolute great family mover throughout every generation that it's been. They've taken a little bit of the design cues from that Celestiq, and they've really like improved upon that Escalade to make it look even better. Now, at the same time, they also introduced the new version of their Escalade V, which, if you remember, about a year ago when that came out, was going for close to 100 over MSRP, and that's cooled down a bit, but that still makes it one awesome rockin' family mover. And I definitely applaud that sort of dual approach that they're doing. And to anyone that was riding me a bit for being a little too harsh on Cadillac the week before, I would like to point out that I am a fan of those two things. And then a little bit of a beware story in Alaska. So you've got a dealership group that purchased another group that's there, and the Alaska Attorney General has filed complaints, some of which have stemmed from their own employees against an auto group in Anchorage for, quote, deceptive sales tactics. And when you read through it, it's mainly revolving around the advertising of cars that were in transit to the dealership, either new or pre-owned. And another complaint really seems like it revolved around someone finding a 0% APR sticker inside of the vehicle. And then they note that client actually did receive a 3.89% APR, which to me still sounds like that was darn low compared to what we're seeing. And an additional, two complaints said that they were mostly related to just having, their associates being overly zealous, and that information on the website hadn't been updated yet from when they purchased it. So it was kind of like a welcome to Alaska, get out, is pretty much how I read that. And then Rivian owners can't really decide who they want to beef with, if they want to beef with each other for not knowing how to drive a Rivian, or to beef at Rivian for giving them cars that either way needing to replace tires in about 6,000 miles. And because they have time on their hands, a lot of these owners are conducting their own studies to prove to Rivian that the R1T and the R1S models, which, by the way, also weigh 7,000 pounds and produce over 800 horsepower, are deteriorating their front tires in 6,000 miles or less. So hopefully they decide who they want to beef with, and that somebody at least helps these guys get tires that will actually last more than 6,000 miles on their Rivians. But
I've got a friend with a Demon that's a lot lighter than that actually went through tires in less miles. So maybe it's the tires.
Because there's
probably different reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because there's a good parallel there, right?
You got to have some reason to bring it back every 6,000 miles if there's no oil change.
That's the way they're going to, that's their generating service.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I think so.
I heard the wipers go out too.
No, apparently the tire thing though is only if you put it in like conserve mode, which
made even less sense to me.
you save on the
That's
battery
how it gets up to 800 horsepower.
Right, but then you're putting all the horsepower to the front wheels only, and the actual stance of the car actually lowers like an inch or two. So
I think it was really just like, we're just misunderstanding what conserve means. It's not that it's conserving battery; it's conserving fixed income for the dealership, and otherwise it wasn't possible. So you hit that button, and I think that's a great feature. I think that more and more EVs should be coming with that. Like, please hit this button so we don't lose our service revenue.
Yeah. I also just think you should be applauding these customers that are doing their own tests. Like today, in today's market, you have got like live Reddit, live response. Embrace these people, because they're going to find holes that guaranteed no one at HQ is going to find. So let them keep experimenting, breaking this stuff, coming up with studies on tires, and maybe some interesting solutions will come out of that.
Okay. We're going to take our first spin around the horn, 30 seconds on what you're watching this week, what's top of your list this week on your watch list for the automotive industry. And let's start with you, Mr. Paul Daly.
Okay, so earlier this week, Wall Street Journal had an article talking about the purchasing power of women over the summertime and how, between Taylor Swift concerts and the Barbie movie, it's just saying there's been this multiplier effect where women are actually bringing a lot of the other consumers with them to events. And I think it would be a really big mistake for dealers to ignore this or not paying attention to it, because there's just a moment in culture where I think dealers can capitalize on this and get some of that attention and empathy and traffic going.
All right. And immediately to your left, Jasen Rice, 30 seconds on the clock.
I'm watching the shopper index of used cars and volume. Seems like dealers had this little uptick, which happens always July, August. Seems like summer sales events, summer sales-a-thons are going on. And typically after that, it falls a trendward downward all the way through December. If that's the case, we'll see 5 to 10% continued decline in values of used cars. If it stays up, like we had a weird jump in January of this year, which typically didn't happen. So let's see if this thing continues. But I just think it's people getting to school and getting things settled back down. And
I'm so happy you did bring that up, and that's why you're here to bring in the realism. That's 51 points for that opening statement. By the way, we do have points here. They matter, like we said in the show intro, they matter about as much as EV demand does for EV production. So, but at the end of it,
value. And cafe standards, the 2030 limits on.
I don't know where to plug it in.
Thing.
Right. No, that's okay. I'm keeping track of it. So thank you. And then new to our show this week. Thanks so much for joining us, Matthew Haiken. And then, from your perspective, 30 seconds, if you can go on the clock, it's yours.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm looking at automotive news, certain manufacturers today saying by 2030, we'll be all in on electric, no ands, ifs, or buts. What is only electric? Is it plug-in hybrids? Is it mild hybrids? Is there an asterisk? It doesn't add up. What is the definition of electric? And that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that too, because I think everyone's just sort of lumping zero tailpipe emissions, electric, battery electric. Everyone's just lumping everything into like one giant pot, and it's not, and it doesn't make sense when you break it apart. So
it doesn't make sense to us because we're live. We're on the front lines. Wall Street sees the headline. They love it. They go nuts. But what is it? Let's peel away what electrification is.
All right, Brian Kramer.
I think you're kind of blowing up the narrative there, Matt, because we're going green and we're going there by 2030. And
Brian,
but let's talk about another narrative that we're going to blow up. I know that's close to your heart, Daniel. Another narrative is that used car supplies are too low or too high. Now I'm looking at the car dealership guys' Twitter post today, where Honda, you got a range of 21 days on Honda, you've got 102 days on Chevy. And everything else is in between. So when somebody's saying, well, used car value, there's new car supply is tight. Well, yeah, if you're a Honda, Kia, Toyota, Subaru dealer, but if some people are saying, oh, there's all kinds of inventory in dealership lots. Well, yeah, if you're an Infiniti, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chevrolet, Chrysler dealer. So I would just say that you can't bucket that into one single thing. Thank you.
All right. We're going to work on some efficiencies just for you after this. We'll have a little.
Hey. Always right.
Overtime.
All right, but look, let's go back real quick to what we, I briefly touched on this art, and this was also in automotive news, right? So are we seeing digital retailing outpacing client expectations? I always am a little bit curious when we say we're doing things in the name of a better client experience, right? Are we actually helping the client with it? And in this case, and I understand there might have been some extenuating circumstances, but is the world of digital retailing actually outpacing what clients are here and have an appetite for to do?
I would say no. I mean, really what the customer wants is they want to feel like they didn't get a worse or better deal than their neighbor. And they want the same experience offline and online. But when it comes to actually taking the deal from A to Z on by themselves, that's why we're there and we're fielding questions and we're placing the deposit and we're going through that process with them. I think you use words to describe what you're saying, but it really doesn't evoke the pain point.
The things that we want to be more efficient about, though, right? Like posting inventory that's not here yet. I mean, typically, right, if you go back not too long ago, advertising a car you don't have, that was pretty contentious. And now it seems like that's coming back again. Is that an isolated case, or are our efficiencies essentially just pissing off our clients?
I think it's not an isolated case. I think that I know a lot of dealers who don't put a picture on the site because they don't want that to happen. And they advertise that, if you're going to go somewhere else, make sure they actually have the vehicle, because it does kind of like put forth this dealer first unfair advantage, but not a consumer first advantage at all, because you think the vehicle's there. I don't think it's isolated at all. And I do think the efficiency of showing on there is just symptomatic of even manufacturers saying, hey, put this on your site, let it connect automatically to see that it's coming in, to try to, not lose interest or lose buyers to other brands. And I think that's a great point. I think that's where digital retailing is failing, because it's not consumers first.
And
but I don't think that it's failing with Tesla, and I don't think that it's failing with even Ford Direct.
Does that happen with Tesla?
You're not showing up to a dealer's lot to see if that Tesla is there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I think
the car's going to get shipped to you.
The answer to the question.
I'm shopping for a car right now, and the site will have pictures. It'll say in stock. The other one says no picture, but in transit. So I'm assuming if I go there, that one's in stock's there, and if it's not, I'm frustrated. But Tesla, I don't have those expectations.
Tesla's also updating everything daily on the hour. They're launching inventory all the time. They're changing pricing dynamically, which really the manufacturers can't. We do, and that's keeping people coming back and refresh, looking for a specific car.
No, I mean, listen,
they don't have tech stack challenges.
On time. No, I mean, first of all, listen, everybody needs to, for the jar that they have that says, when Brian says Tesla, add a coin, go ahead and do that. So we've started our first one today, right? And that, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to plant the tree. But here's the thing though. And Matt, I'm just, coming back on what you said. It's like, we continue to talk about Tesla as an example. We're talking about dealerships doing digital retailing, and we're bringing in Tesla, which Tesla is an entire OEM that's just practicing direct sales. The way that they're going to be able to come to market is going to be different than what a dealer body is going to be able to do. Now, Brian just loves bringing in Tesla because, in back of him, you can't see he's actually at the gigawatt factory. So that, there's
I've never actually even sat in a Tesla.
He's in a Cybertruck right now.
I changed my background. But when I was in retail, though, back in my day, Daniel,
it's only like a year ago.
we were retailing 5,000-6,000 cars digitally a year. And I think that the biggest mistake that everybody makes is they're trying to defend why we shouldn't go digital instead of figuring out how to do it and then letting the customer have the option.
So this is the first
guy. Digital, digital is there's a lot of meanings to that. I mean, are they transacting? Are they doing DMV work? Are they setting up transportation digitally, or are they just working a payment and sending a lead? It's a complete digital experience.
Yeah, and this is the guy, Brian, who's signed up the first metaverse deal, right? The first metaverse deal.
Daniel loves talking about that.
First and last, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
It was so great, no one could top it. It was like everybody was like, "I'm out." They wrote the perfect song.
It's actually in the same museum as the dodo bird and the Hindenburg. But moving on, there's we actually touched on, we broke the news first here on the Wheelhouse. I do believe we broke the news here first on the Wheelhouse, that the extreme shortage of used vehicles under $20,000 for the purchase price, and now it's everywhere, right? So even Market Watch this week coming out with an article illustrating again the shortage of those under $20,000 vehicles, but also the fact that of those vehicles that are under $20,000, that they're 20,000 more miles on them now than there were in 2019. So we're talking about miles in the 60s as opposed to miles in the 40s. And so, which is the casualty here? Is this inflation? Is this another post-pandemic casualty? And do we see this basically being the continuation? Is this just how it's going to be? And do we need to just change our expectations for what an under 20K car should be?
I think it's going to go back. I think it's a casualty of just inflation, maybe partially, but also it's just the supply. One of the stats was like 63% of all used vehicles listed were under $20,000 or somewhere like that. And now it's like 13%. I think that's just indicative. Like, it's going to take years to catch up, but I think under 20,000 will normalize somewhat. It'll still be higher than it was in 2019, but I think it'll somewhat normalize by maybe 2025.
So we'll have the cheap used cars before we have everybody going electric, essentially. At least that.
Oh yeah, way before.
This is where I think you've seen Carvana get a little bit of uptick in the stock market and everything and their results and stuff. If you look at their site right now, they got 30,000 used cars and 10,000 of them are under 20 grand. A third of their inventory is 20 grand or less. So
wow,
they get a lot. Yeah, they got a lot of cars to offer there. I think
that's one of their core strengths is buying cars from the public. I mean, that's I think where their genius is. They really know how to buy cars from the public, and that's where those cars sit.
Mm-hmm.
But what type of car that is has changed dramatically over the past 3 years, right? So is that changing who we're retailing those cars to? Is that changing anything about warranties and financing, and what the public's willing, or is the public just willing to accept it?
I think affordability is driving the bus. They'll accept whatever they can afford.
So that's essential. We're willing to make those compromises is basically based on affordability. And that's either the casualty or the victory of inflation.
It goes to that J.D. Power report that we were looking at earlier. The first transaction price declined in 11 years. Okay, it declined almost $700. The first time transaction prices declined, and I think it says customers with higher interest rates. They said the other thing year over year, the prices dropped $800, but average
payments are up
$18. Yep. So customers, it's a high demand car that's hard to come by.
Okay, don't pull ahead from future segments to make your point like in this one, right? Like Thunder Stealer.
You take points away?
Yeah, negative. Yeah, take his 51 points away.
No, I'm taking 3.
Driving around.
How did you even bring that up?
3. Damn it. I thought he was going to go into negative. It's my only chance to beat him.
It's a 3-point penalty. But okay, no, I'll give you guys a chance to get back into the ring. So we touched on this, and so let's expand on it. We went through a pandemic, and if we weren't on the idea of digital retailing, we got into the idea of digital retailing. And Matthew, like you pointed out, everyone's got a different when we all say it, we don't all mean the same thing. But what have we actually learned now that we're post-pandemic and now we're dealing with this reality? What have we learned are the definitely like don't do's with digital retailing? What have we learned to absolutely stay clear from? And you can't say the metaverse because that's obvious.
No, I think we're completely turned around. I mean, we went from the pandemic where everything was touchless, pickup and delivery, drop off, A to Z, into a place where people were just picking up the phone call. Do you have that car? I want to come in. And I think we're going to have to redefine all our definitions of what it actually means. So I think we're right back to where it started right now. And it's not until inventory really, really starts to creep up at the end of the year where we get back to the roots of digital retailing.
I think it's half and half, like Cars.com talks about, that first half of doing research, but you want to kind of finish it off at the store, get in there, just make it quick and easy for me. Don't drag me through all these steps and sit there and wait for financing. And then, I think it's mostly just, I think customers want a half and half mix. They want to be able to do as much as they can online and then get in the dealership, be in and out pretty quick.
Brian, I've ragged on you, but I mean, you see this every day. You're looking at a lot of cars that are available for sale online. What have you seen that definitely just isn't working?
Well, I think that people need to realize that digital retailing is not a lead generation tool. It's actually should be transactional. The credit application should populate, the CRM. Same thing with the trade appraisal tool. Same thing with everything. If it's not mapped and it's not integrated, then that's all it is just lead gen. I think that's one of the biggest crimes that we committed and reverted back to. It should save everybody time. But when you put something on your digital retail tool that says, click here for express checkout, and then the client fills out and populates all that information, and then they show up and they're like, oh, well, here, let's just fill it out again and now you're back on the Ferris wheel for round 2. And I thought that's why I did all that ahead of time before my doctor's appointment. We would flip out if we did that at a doctor's appointment. They didn't acknowledge the time we spent.
I've said this in the past. It is not a linear process. Like some people want the credit app up front. Some people want the credit app as the last stage. Some people want the credit up front. Cannot be the same A to Z linear road to sale.
Can't be a bolt-on solution.
No.
It's got to be your process. It can't be a bolt-on solution. All 100%. Right. Moving towards the bread and butter here. So we went through just megabytes of PowerPoint slides from both JD Power and Cox Automotive. So you don't have to. And we're going to unpack that a little bit, or at least some of us did. And some of us are looking at it now, but that doesn't matter because we're speed readers, right? So
it looks like gigabytes.
With the aggregated data that's out there, let's save you the time from having to go through this. But I think we've got enough info out there to really solidify our new and used car operations, and some really good and somewhat surprising and somewhat not surprising info. But Jason, since you opened the Pandora's box, but no, I mean probably one of the foremost minds in that realm. Let me start with you and tell me what caught your eye.
Well, I think it was the Cox one where basically, it looks like an uptick in used retail daily sales for August. And again, I think it's a seasonal adjustment that you'll see a little bit uptick or stabilization in wholesale. But if that comes back down to normal, we'll go directly down like it did last year. If you look at the trend lines in that report, September, October, November, December, each month after August, it kind of was a drop off. In the meantime, yes, used retail availability supplies less than last year, about 10%, I think they said, but it looks like it's been going up since the 12th week of this year. And I bet those lines are going to cross here in the next 2 to 3 months or 2 to 3 weeks. And you're going to see a more used cars out there as new cars getting the attention with lower rates.
Yeah, I'd love to have someone from the Fed here to just ask them, are our transaction prices high enough now? Like, is that, right. Have we gotten to that point yet? New, used? If we got
I hope you're happy. One of those moments.
Are you happy? Right?
Are you not entertained? Right? Was that Gladiator?
If nothing else, right? I would like to know where the high water limit is.
So
right?
would they. They would like to know what that is too.
Fair. Brian?
Well, I'm looking at all this MMR data, but I'm realizing that's only just a cross section. It's let's say it's a little over half of the data. It's not something I'm willing to put as much weight into because it's become so decentralized with ACB auctions, car offer, all these different auction sources. If you could somehow aggregate all that data into one place and figure it out, I mean, it looks like I've been hearing or saying for 2 years that MMR is at the peak and it can't go any higher and just continues to climb and climb. So I'm not saying that anymore because every time I do, it just keeps going up. But it's a matter of MMR as compared to what? If you were able to really look at all the transactional data, you see the gap between wholesale and retail is so tight. I don't know if you call it wholetailing, but I don't know that that's an accurate measurement. It just seems like the right cars are still bringing all the money and the wrong cars are the ones that are
always. Do they pull out electric cars and seeing like 50% off window sticker? That's going to be our new percentage of cars under 20,000.
Right.
But those third parties, I mean, they really are. They're struggling. I don't even think they'd publish their transactions because it's down so bad. I mean, Guru's with Car Offer last week. They got punched in the face. And again, last week there was one big buyer out buying cars. I think that was the blip. I think you're going to see a steady decline for the rest of the year.
What about purchase affordability? And actually, before I get to that, let's talk about used real quick. Because on the JD Power report, we're saying current used days to turn is an average of 39 days. Now, I don't know what everyone's, seeing in their particular neck of the woods, but what 39 days? Is that right, wrong, and different?
What did they say? It says that's 10 days faster than pre-virus years.
Yeah, but you're getting into, one, Cox says 45, but two is, again, this is seasonal. This is stuff that as people get that, my kids started full day today was their first day back to school. We got to get cars. My teenager's going to need a car. You got just that seasonal uptick. Plus, again, July, August tends to bring on that new car attention where summer sales events, summer sales athons, and leasing starts to uptick. And, I think that attention's there, and you see it in new cars is creeping up. And I'll circle back to used, but new car sales is creeping up. But it's not double. There's double the inventory available selectively, as Brian mentioned earlier. But there is double the inventory out there, and the sales are creeping up for new. So it just means more trades and everything are going to be coming into this equation. So I think it's just a quick little snippet of good business to turn, but also how many of those cars end up at the auction trying to get wholesaled out of here too.
What's the deal with pickups? Because I'll be honest, that's an area I'm not that familiar with, but I was surprised to see pickups and, high-end luxury vehicles mentioned in the same sentence, as that they're both suffering a bit on the new car side of things, in terms of their pricing, their sales rate. And so why pickups all of a sudden? Because that seemed to be something that was unstoppable.
Yeah, because they're about as expensive as a luxury vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
And it's inventory. I mean, the inventory's there. I think with the shortage of inventory, people need work vehicles. But inventory comes up and normalizes everything.
Let me just ask you guys. I mean, it's just some things that are obvious that we've seen, right? So interest rates clearly have gone. And I understand it's not necessarily affecting our rate of sales, but interest rates have gone up. Values have fluctuated, and there's no arguing that across every segment things are worth less than they were same time a year ago, right? So do these just normal car factors, right? Higher interest rates and tougher trade equities. Is this essentially all that's affecting or a large part of what's affecting our rate of sales? Is it making our time to transaction a little bit longer as we figure these things out? Because this would that's pretty normal, I would say, definitely for this time of year also. But is this something that we're just going to be seeing as a cooling damper on our new and used car sales for the rest of the year? And if it is, what's the bullet?
Gas prices are up 80 cents since the beginning of the year. You calculate that on top of higher interest rates and on top of everything else we're paying inflation. People just need cheaper vehicles right now, and trucks aren't there.
Are you all in the pricing? Are you all starting to see people showing up underwater in their trades more than you were a year ago?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's going to be a big factor, especially as affordability. And this plays out even further. More and more people are going to be coming in with negative equity in their trade. When a year ago, everyone was like, oh, like I traded in a lease, a 36-month Telluride lease. I traded in last year and I got a check for $14,000. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'd be paying to get out of that. So, I mean, especially on the more expensive vehicles.
Yeah. And that's right. Exactly. And so we're seeing like it's harder and harder to get people out of leases. So I mean, so there's, I think, and also when we go back to talking about buying cars from the public, first of all, it's like everyone will agree and everyone wants to say like going to an auction is going to be the worst place to buy a car, but everyone is going to look at what the reporting data from MMR is to decide at the end of a quarter or a day or a week about what the best strategy to get their inventory is. And now I'm going to say like to buy a car from the public for us to just be buying cars from the public, is that not going to get increasingly difficult as we move forward?
I mean, we're going to have so much competition because the cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows that's how you get your best trade-ins. Mm-hmm. So everyone now who never invested in buying cars from the public is doing it. So yeah.
If MMR is less than the residual, though, is it better? Are you getting a better deal buying it from the client?
Yes, it depends on the scarcity, average days on market. MMR isn't tracking where the value is going. It's tracking where it's been for the last 45 days. So it's not caught up on an EV where they just had an MSRP change. It's not instantaneous. There's still a lag measure of data.
And I think the $1,000 dealer fee, $1,500 recon, another nickel and post inspection fee. The house always wins.
I think the dealer with the biggest rebates are going to win that battle because they got that trade allowance they can show. Absorb that negative equity, get that customer out of it if they need to replace a car, not just sell it.
So we're just going right back to artificial demand then, and maybe that's why we're seeing incentives kind of moving in a direction opposite of what we're seeing demand in.
Biggest incentives win.
All right. Well, good news is it's recorded, so we'll be able to, in 3 months we'll be able to look in the rearview mirror and see which one of us had the 2020. But all right. I'm glad that we went through that. And I think that, if you haven't seen the report, by all means, go ahead. But honestly, those are the things that we've got our eyes on from there. All right. Moving on from that, I think I'm going to total up my points here real quick. And the winner of our point total is going to go into a rapid fire section. Okay. Minus the 3. So with 48 points, Jasen Rice, followed closely by everybody else with a 0. But that's only because I don't really want to keep track that much.
I was gonna say
No. You all did. You know what, Paul? You have 17. Brian has 8. That's a newcomer, so you want to keep
just round it up
35.
like an MPG rating.
Yeah.
All right. So Jasen, if you're ready, I've got 6 questions for you.
All
right. 1, how many weeks will the UAW strike last?
5.
5. All right. What music should NADA get to play at the opening party at their Las Vegas Sphere?
Oh shit!
These are great questions. I really want to win next time.
You chime in on that one.
Killers.
Music.
The Killers.
This isn't a collaborative effort.
Take points away from me then.
A tag team.
Don't be so cavalier with these points. All right, Jason, if you could open up a franchise dealership tomorrow, what OEM are you choosing?
I would do sports, like motorcycle, ATV, side by side type one. But anyways,
I thought he meant a sports franchise, like a soccer team.
No, like a yeah.
He's buying the Browns.
Yeah. If
What franchise? Let's put it this way: what automotive franchise would you definitely not choose?
Shit, I don't know. Lincoln. No.
Oh,
Matthew's like, I got one of those.
Sorry.
All right. What's the next car model that's going to be discontinued from a manufacturer?
Kyle, you like this one, wouldn't you? Rio. No, those are going to stick around. Matter of fact, people need cheaper cars. Shoot.
Aztec.
Rivian. No, back to the Rivian.
You're eliminating an entire
Not a
manufacturer.
model, I know. Well,
hey,
hey,
the Honda Ridgeline, it already got canceled, didn't it? The Ridgeline? No, it didn't.
No, it got canceled amongst actual pickup truck owners, from what I understand, but not.
Titan got canceled. It was a Titan. Yeah,
Titan's
I'd say.
All
right, if you had fully autonomous, like level 7, whatever it needs to be, in your current vehicle, would you use it? No.
It's a big 350 dually. The thing will freaking crush them by it. Something happens, man.
Yeah, level 7.
But a Model S is heavier than your dually, I think.
Yeah, true.
Last question to wrap it up. What's the worst job to have right now in the automotive industry?
Wholesaler.
Wholesaling. Okay.
It's going to be a tricky one right now.
All right. Well, there you are, ladies and gentlemen, and just a little bit over our half hour.
Hold on, I bring that up because 49% is not selling at the lane. It was in the 70s this time last year.
Okay, you had time to bring all this up. You know what you did, and you took from a segment, you moved it up, and then now we're over budget.
You can have my points. They're back.
And
they're all
Nathan, I'm not giving you points anymore if that's how you're gonna treat them. You know. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Check like no sale percentage. You check how many points he didn't get.
Thank you so much to Nathan Southwick that helps produce all this and put this together and make it look way better than if it was just us doing it ourselves. Thanks for joining us here on the Wheelhouse, and we'll see you again next week with a whole new cast, maybe, and a whole new set of questions as we try and decipher what this is in our crazy business called the automotive industry. Thanks again for joining us, and see you next week.